Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out why did the British panic over Ninja Turtles?
There's been many animated incarnations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles over the years, but the very original series came out in 1987. This was a smash hit, exploded in merchandise and a brand that's recognized even today.
Kind of remember that,
So naturally it was shown in other countries. After all, that's how I saw it here in England. However, the version we got in the UK was weirdly different. They weren't Ninja Turtles, they were Hero Turtles.
Huh?
Why? The short answer is British media censored the word ninja, but that strikes me as being a bit too short. Like, why? What series of events led to the UK being so scared of ninjas?
Yeah.
And the reason behind it turned out to be something of a rabbit hole.
Okay. I don't have anything to say, I just wanted to digest that for a second.
And the reason behind it turned out to be something of a rabbit hole. Or should I say, a turtle hole? No, I shouldn't say that.
Mary Whitehouse and her nasties. What's wrong with ninjas? I mean, they're scary. They could kill you, but a lot of other stuff could kill you. Let's just look up Mary Whitehouse, a British teacher and conservative activist. Those are always fun. She campaigned against social liberalism in the mainstream British media. She sounds like a blast. She died in 2001. How did she die? This says she passed away peacefully earlier today. She had become increasingly frail in recent times. She remained convinced that modern television programs put children in danger because of their violence and sexual content. They probably did, and they probably still do. But it's fun. As much of a buzzkill as she was, she's probably right. But let's blame it on the parents. I'm not finding out exactly how she died, which probably means she pooped to death.
Starting in the 1960s, British school teacher Mary Whitehouse campaigned against the perceived rise of bad language, violence, and sex on TV. There was a general view by the right wing in the 1960s that Britain was becoming a permissive society, marking the death of a moral and respectable Britain.
Okay.
Good. So the Queen of Clean set out on a moral crusade to save our souls by fighting Doctor Who.
What's going on?
Yeah, so among the many things she rallied against, she called Doctor Who Tea Time Brutality for Tots. And that one episode contained some of the sickest and most horrific material seen on children's television.
Tea time brutality for tots. That's good alliteration. That's good marketing. Say what you want about Mary Whitehouse, but she was a marketing genius. Development during a long war between the planet's two humanoid powers and moments of violence that included Tom Baker convulsed in pain as an electric fence sends a current through him. Mary Whitehouse described it as tea time brutality for tots. Tea time brutality for tots is probably how she said it. Oh, did you see that smack? That looked real. Pa!
She called Doctor Who Tea Time Brutality for Tots.
Tea time
and that one
brutality for
episode
tots.
contained some of the sickest and most horrific material seen on children's
Oh, it was
television.
a gunshot.
Wow.
I mean,
What episode was that? The brain of Morbius? God, that guy just can't catch a break, can he?
It's Morbin time.
But Mary Whitehouse's persistence was working. Her complaints led to episodes being re-edited, the series being moved to a later time slot, and subsequent episodes were explicitly instructed to tone down the violence.
What does it say? The BBC apologized for the violence of the deadly assassin, moved the series transmission time back to after 6 p.m. and installed Graham Williams as the new producer with a brief to tone down those aspects of the show which had been causing controversy for the past 3 years. To her credit, I did see someone get shot in the belly, and there's a lot of smacking. It's not a good way to teach problem solving to children, I would imagine. Y'all, I don't like Mary Whitehouse, but I'm starting to see what she means. She may have been right. I don't want to admit it, but she may have been right.
Oh look, it's a piece of media intended for younger viewers being permanently altered because of a moral outcry. I wonder if this will come up again later. She may have been a figure of ridicule, but she was winning. And the impact that media had on children was a subject of growing public concern, especially for conservative-leaning people, such as the video nasties.
Video nasties, the Home Secretary says he won't change the law to ban them altogether.
In the
Video
1970s,
nasties.
the VCR was introduced to the UK and films were released on VHS without age rating. So anyone could buy any movie at any age. The
What?
exception to this was erotic films, which fell under the Obscene Publications Act, which banned videos that tend to deprave and corrupt persons who are likely to read, see, or hear the matter contained or embodied in it.
VHSs didn't have ratings? In America, I'm pretty sure they did. Because I remember going to the video store, everything was separated in terms of the ratings. So like R ratings were over there, PG, G was all separate. But those were by the Motion Picture Association of America. Not the Motion Picture Association of Britain, so I could see. What does it say? Snuff movie moguls, age 15. Boys netted as cops swoon on evil video ring. 2 boys of 15 were being quizzed by cops last night after the first snuff movies uncovered in Britain were seized in dawn swoops nationwide. The real killing videos were among 5,000, also showing R-word, mutilation, torture, S-word with animals, and cannibalism. This looks like a problem, but it is in a newspaper, so who knows? It looks tabloidish, so maybe we're not getting the whole story, but that sounds terrifying.
Video hire shops were often raided to seize these obscene videos, including The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, a Dolly Parton musical that was definitely not a porn movie.
No.
The problem with this description
Dolly
of
Parton?
what
Dolly Parton! Dolly Parton is like a beacon of purity, disguised as a whore.
not a porn movie. The problem with this description of what defines an obscene video was really vague, and Mary Whitehouse took full advantage of this as she pushed for
Who's she sitting with?
really vague, and Mary White
Who are these boys she's sitting with? She's having a great time right there. She loves it, Mary. You know, people who speak out against this kind of stuff and want censorship are usually the ones who have a problem with it. They get carried away with it. They get tempted by it. Mary's having a great time. Mary may have been a total slut, but she's trying to keep it under wraps. Mary.
of what defines an obscene video was really vague, and Mary Whitehouse took full advantage of this as she pushed for more and more videos to be also seized, not for being pornographic, but for being obscene. This included Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Scanners, Rosemary's Killer, Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 2, and Mary's #1 nasty, The Evil Dead. These weren't technically banned, but police could seize them at their discretion, or to generally discourage video dealers so they wouldn't bother going through all the trouble of trying.
So, yeah, those movies aren't, like, perverted or extremely... Well, no, I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is pretty messed up. They used actual human bones in that movie. Do you know that? Real human bones. The term video nasties is so British.
These weren't technically banned, but police could seize them at their discretion, or to generally discourage video dealers so they wouldn't bother going through all the trouble of trying to sell them. But this still created a frenzy in the tabloids. This would eventually change...
Oh, what did that last one say? The men who grow rich on bloodlust, taken over by something evil from the TV set.
Tabloids. This would eventually change thanks to the Video Recordings Act of 1984, which would now add a age rating system to video releases, just like cinema releases.
Great.
Now, I don't think this is such a bad thing. Protecting really young kids from accidentally seeing a film they're not ready for is a pretty solid reason for age rating systems on videos.
Yeah.
And obviously, I've seen movies rated 18 when I was under 18. We all have. But I like that there's at least some guidance on what to expect, and I'd rather have a film rated for adults instead of being banned just because a teenager's head got a little bit removed. But that's the thing. The goal of this war on video nasties wasn't to protect the children. It was to get these movies taken away from everyone. And these are some of the most important movies in the history of horror.
Yeah, I can understand not wanting kids to see it. They're not ready for it. But for an adult, like, come on. Scanners, classic. Evil Dead, classic. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, classic. If you've not seen that in a while, rewatch it. Parts of it are so bad that it's good. There's some really horrible acting, but it's terrifying. Friday the 13th, classic. Friday the 13th Part 2, classic. A Nightmare on Elm Street, classic. Night of the Living Dead, classic. Dawn of the Dead, classic. Rosemary's Killer, classic. The Thing, oh my god, The Thing, sleeper hit. It didn't do great when it came out, but it's actually really good. Mary, not cool.
And these are some of the most important movies in the history of horror, further cementing just how out of touch the attitude towards them were. Which, get this, she never watched in the first place.
I have never seen a video nasty. I actually don't need to see visually, what I know is in that film.
Mary. That pisses me off. She hasn't even seen him. She doesn't even know what she's banning. She's probably right, though. She's probably right. I mean, you could sort of tell what you're going to see from the poster.
In 1973, Stanley Kubrick insisted on removing A Clockwork Orange in just England after his family received threats of violence while he was being accused of a film that would inspire acts of violence. Wow. Indeed, there were a lot of real-life murders and massacres that would be blamed on the influence of violent movies.
Research is taking place, and it will show that these films not only affect young people, but I believe they affect adults as well.
Wait, did he just say dogs or adults?
But I believe they affect adults as well.
Dogs?
Affect adults as well.
Dogs?
Dogs.
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 Dogs?
Adults as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he said dogs. So yeah, they got the blame based on studies that were often just made up, like a survey done to see if children had watched these video nasties, a study used by many political figures in arguments against them, except...
What we did is made up film titles, and when we gave that to school children, we found 2/3 of them claimed they'd seen films which never exist.
Oh, so yeah. So I remember being as a kid, hearing about these R-rated movies, and then one of your friends would say, "Oh, I saw it," and it was like a bragging right. Like, how'd you see it? I snuck into the theater. Whoa, oh my God, what was it like? You know, hey kid, have you seen Evil Zombie Sex Sluts? Yeah, I've seen Evil Zombie Sex Sluts 3 times.
I think this unproven speculation about videos influencing real-world violence is more gross than anything these films showed. Because just like blaming heavy metal music or video games, it just lets mass murderers get away with being merely innocent victims who were just under a bad influence. Society will always want to blame others because it cannot blame itself for making the monster.
There is a rising level of violence in society and people are worried by it. It's very easy to look for something which actually has virtually no connection at all with what's going on and say, let's blame it on that.
I don't deny the effectiveness of these films. I knew somebody who stopped taking baths after seeing Nightmare on Elm Street. Obviously, media has an effect on your behaviour. That's how advertising works. Get Surfshark today. But a film toying with your emotions can't just uncharacteristically alter you to do things you weren't already inclined to do. As Kubrick said, to attribute powerful suggestive qualities to a film is at odds with the scientifically accepted view that even after deep hypnosis, in a post-hypnotic state, people cannot be made to do things which are at odds with their natures.
I like that. Y'all, Stanley Kubrick, a brilliant man. Well said, Stanley. Mr. Kubrick, sir, rest in peace. I agree with this. At the same time, whenever I play Grand Theft Auto, and then I get in my car and drive, I feel inclined to drive like an ass.
Basically, if a movie, a game, or a song was going to make them
Grand
do
Theft
it,
Auto.
they were probably going to do it anyway.
Right.
This is a classic example of a moral panic. A moral panic is a means to drum up fear that some evil is a threat to society, and it's a tool that politicians fucking love to use.
Oh my God.
Because
they're using it right now. They're using it right now. The border is a mess. The border is a disgrace what they've done at the border.
Because you not only get to invent a problem, you also get to solve it, and win a lot of votes in the
Right.
process. And it worked for Margaret Thatcher.
Bruce Lee versus Maggie
James
Thatcher.
Furman, director of the BBFC at the time, was pretty lenient when it came to film classifications. One infamous example is Salo, or The 120 Days of Sodom, a film known for its extreme violence, f***ing, and eating. Furman allowed it exclusively for private club cinemas, even though the police would still seize it. James Furman seemed to really understand the artistic intent, even in extreme examples like this. However,
The headlines at 6 o'clock. An armed man has opened fire with an automatic weapon in a Berkshire town. At least 9 people are dead, 14 are injured.
In 1987, Michael Ryan shot 31 people, killing 16 of them, including his own mother.
Wow, oh my God.
The Hungerford Massacre remains one of the UK's deadliest mass shootings. No motive was ever confirmed, but people blamed violent movies, such as Rambo.
From my impression, there were people saying he was playing Rambo.
The events in Hungerford clearly shook James Furman, as he's the guy in charge of certifying films. He's basically something of an arbiter of British culture, so he must have felt some partial responsibility for what happened.
Sounds like he was all about the art and would let things slide by just in the name of art. He was on the artist side. Hungerford Massacre. Oh, there's the guy. The Hungerford Massacre was a spree shooting in Wiltshire and Berkshire, United Kingdom, which occurred in 1987. He was 27 years old. No firm motive for the killings has been established. Consequently, the Firearms Amendment Act of 1988 was passed in the wake of the massacre, banning ownership of semi-automatic center-fire rifles. He shot his 2 family dogs, y'all. Wow. Jeez. My God, that's horrible.
And then himself. The Hungerford Massacre remains one of the UK's deadliest mass shootings. No motive was ever confirmed, but people blamed violent movies, such as Rambo.
From my impression, there were people just saying he was playing Rambo.
Yeah, I think to not have a motive is really scary, and it makes everybody feel unsafe. So blaming the movies is an easy scapegoat. I mean, it's probably partially to blame, but not totally.
The events in Hungerford clearly shook James Furman, as he's the guy in charge of certifying
He blamed himself.
He's basically something of an arbiter of British culture, so he must have felt some partial responsibility for what happened. Because following this, coupled with the ongoing tabloid pressure of video nasties, he clamped down hard on violence and weapons despite artistic intent, such as rating Rambo 3 with an 18, despite it really being a 15, even with cuts, which is just sad. This coincided well with the policies of Margaret Thatcher. She was seen as the solution for the permissive society and led with the hardline policies of law and order, especially against deadly weapons. You see, when Enter the Dragon came out in 1973, it was a worldwide sensation.
Yes.
Bruce Lee's posthumous masterpiece became one of the most influential films of all time, sparking a trend of other martial arts movies and TV shows to follow.
I was so close to becoming the ultimate ninja!
And the British press, once again, had a moral panic about it. This follows from a high-profile case in the 60s after a kitchen hand learned karate from a book and used it to murder his colleague.
Apparently, within 3 seconds, he'd killed the man, stone dead.
This brought into question the safety of this karate, suggesting a potential full ban on the practice. And now here's even more martial arts.
Hang on, what was this guy? He learned a karate move and he killed his coworker? Yeah, karate was big in America when I was a little kid. I took karate classes. I got up to yellow belt. Now that I'm thinking of it, yeah, I think I had a couple throwing stars. Like you could order them from a magazine. They were not expensive. And me and my friend down the street, he had some throwing stars, and there was this wooden fence in the back of his house, and we would throw the throwing stars at the wooden fence. But now that I'm thinking of it, that's really dangerous. Really dangerous.
And now here's even more martial arts, this time with weapons, and they're being sold in shops. They're even available by mail order. But like with the video nasties, the angle became, what if a child got hold of a throwing star? Like, obviously, that's bad, but by positioning the story in such a biased way, it becomes impossible to argue against. Oh, what, you want little babies playing with ninja stars, little ninja babies throwing little ninja stars? Oh, what's wrong with you? But once again, the plan was to ban it for everyone.
Oi, you got a license for that ancestral sword? I like that they spelled license phonetically. Oi, you got a license for that ancestral sword? Oi.
But once again, the plan was to ban it for everyone. Home Office Minister John Patton said they have no part to play in civilized society. No civilized person should wish to possess them. Oh, but I thought everyone was kung fu fighting. So, okay. Were there any high-profile cases of an attack in the UK using ninja weapons? Nope, not that I could find. I found articles about confiscating weapons and suspected weapons, and while I don't doubt somebody probably attacked somebody with a weapon at some point, it hardly seemed to be as widespread as the press was suggesting. The Home Office's public crime record of possession of weapons only starts from 1998 due to the changes on how crimes were counted. Crime statistics do show a general increase in the 80s and the 90s, but that's of all crimes, with or without weapons. And while we don't exactly want a kid to be killed by a throwing star to only then act upon it, other than sensationalist articles, I'm not finding much to actually support the paranoia of ninja weapons.
Oh, so there was a lot of increase in crime linked to weapons. So these news stories were lying? Is that what he's saying?
What did happen, however, were riots. lots and lots of riots. With a hard line on law and order, police were allowed to do random stop and searches, and by random I mean mostly black people, called the sus law. This was a thing.
Yeah, in the States we had stop and frisk in New York. Very unpopular.
So the growing mistrust of the police saw the rise in tension become riots in Brixton in 1981, and then again in 1985, and then the miners' strike. Basically, Thatcher was very good at pissing off a lot of people. So I think a motivating factor of the Offensive Weapons Act in 1988, with the inclusion of ninja weapons, was to try and undermine the fighting power of the rioters, just before the poll tax riots kicked off. Similarly, Thatcher had a heavy-handed approach when it came to football hooliganism.
Margaret Thatcher's government thought football fans so violent she set up a war cabinet to control football fans. Margaret, loosen up. You're too uptight.
And how they were allegedly bringing ninja throwing stars to football matches. Hooliganism was such a huge concern for Thatcher that the increased police powers to control the violence resulted in one of the deadliest football events ever. The Hillsborough disaster of 1989, in which Liverpool supporters were crushed by overcrowding, resulted in 97 deaths. Despite this being proven to be caused by the actions of the police, the right-wing press was quick to put the blame on the victims.
Pretty messed up. This is the thing. I don't understand why cops show up to a protest. Just let the protest happen. It gets violent when the cops show up, right? Why are the cops there? Because there's a bunch of people and something bad might happen? Like, let the protesters protest. They're not hurting anybody. Usually, I mean, I'm speaking in broad terms, but it's fair to state that over many years, the South Yorkshire Police have given excellent service to the public. They have handled crowd problems sensitively and successfully at a large number of football games, including major matches, during strikes in the coal industry and the steel industry, and in other contexts. Unfortunately, their policing on 15 April broke down in the ways already described, and although there were other causes, the main reason for the disaster was the failure of police control. And then the conservatives are like, those people are blah, 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 blah.
This is so demonstrably untrue that the Sun newspaper continues to...
Wait, what did that say? Some fans picked pockets of victims. Some fans urinated on the brave cops. Some fans beat up PC giving kiss of life. It's the Sun, y'all. You can't believe the Sun.
This is so demonstrably untrue that the Sun newspaper continues to be boycotted in Liverpool to this day. Good. So many were clutching at their pearls.
Oh my God, what? Oh my God, I love that. Another reason to love Liverpool, y'all. Super friendly people, an entertaining accent, and they boycott the Sun. Cheers to Liverpool. I love you so much. I love you so much, Liverpool. I love you. I want to come visit you. I want to party with you. I want to get inside of you.
So many were clutching at their pearls, worried about these unruly mobs of rural rioters. So just as there was a ban on these weapons in the real world, there were also bans on these weapons in movies and TV. And James Furman was taking a stance against nunchucks. When Enter the Dragon had a 1988 VHS release, Bruce Lee's iconic nunchuck scene was cut. The cover had to be altered. That just looks like a baguette. Even this scene with a poster of Bruce Lee just holding nunchucks had to be cut too.
Someday I'm gonna be just like him.
So for ninja weapons, despite having no real inciting moment beyond
media offline, media okay.
Despite having no real inciting moment beyond the popularity of Bruce Lee, a moral panic was once again created. One that created laws and legislations that made the Thatcher government
this is starting to make
great
sense.
because they were firm and unwavering, all in the name of keeping the peace and saving the children. And unfortunately, this was the sorry state of Britain when the Turtles hit our shores. Cowabunga.
Turtle craze and nunchuck no-no.
Oh, those poor turtles. They didn't stand a chance. Drawing clear influence from the martial art classics like Bruce Lee, with 80s action movie attitude, the Turtles were set to take the world by storm. But the UK was between moral panics of how the media affects kids, ninja weapons, and
right in
fighting
the middle
in the
of it.
streets. And although Thatcher was on her way out, the Turtles couldn't have come at a worse time.
Makes sense.
But with a huge franchise and merchandise opportunities, the Turtles couldn't not come to the UK, so they had to comply with the censorship changes, and they were brutal. Following the cuts from Enter the Dragon, Michelangelo wasn't allowed to have his iconic nunchucks, meaning they had to be constantly removed with some really bad edits.
I wanna play dirty, huh?
Strike one, dude. Strike two.
You missed. best.
You think so?
So you want to play dirty, huh?
You think so?
And there was, of course, the name.
Remember, we're the Crooked Ninja Turtle Gang. Here's our card. We're the Crooked Turtle Gang. Here's our card.
Ninjas couldn't be seen to be glorified to kids, so they were awkwardly renamed Heroes. We never got this cool swirly logo, we got this janky edited version. Look at this mess. What is this lettering? This bit of the T has fallen off. Why is it so weirdly fuzzy? And it's not even straight. Yeah. Even the live action show, The Next Mutation, you know, the one that added the fifth turtle, Venus.
What? I don't know about that.
They too had to have the Ninja Hero name change. Although the censors had no control over video games, the hero moniker was kept, presumably for brand recognition.
Dude, I could beat gaming.
The movies, however, were allowed to remain ninjas, but still faced severe cuts, to the point where other members of the BBFC challenged James Furman, saying the film had been ruined in the process, but the anti-nunchuck ruling remained.
Oh, a fellow chucker, eh?
The second Ninja Turtles movie, The Secret of the Ooze, faced a
I
lot of
remember
problems.
that.
Parental groups said the first film was too dark, there were school bans, and even toy companies pressured the sequel to be much lighter, with the violence significantly watered down. And it still didn't work. Aside from the mixed reviews, it faced the silliest cut in the history of British cinema. At one point, Michelangelo uses sausages like nunchucks. You're probably already guessing where this is going. They're clearly not nunchucks. They're sausages. Perfectly safe, unless you're a pig. But because
you could
he
kill
used
somebody
them
with a
like
sausage.
nunchucks, James Furman insisted
least knock
that
'em out.
even the sausages got the chop. And despite everything, despite all the cuts and changes, the Hero Turtles were still an absolute sensation. Turtlemania swept across the UK, and how did the press react to this? Can you guess? Go on, have a guess. Yeah, that's right. It's another moral panic. Yay!
It seems every classroom in Britain is hit by Turtlemania. Turtlemania.
Turtlemania.
Turtlemania is
Cowabunga.
sweeping Britain.
They are teaching violence to our children.
It almost becomes like a drug.
You can't enjoy that massive diet of violent entertainment and not be affected.
Comic heroes like the Turtles can be a threat to young minds.
What? Turtle Boy fights for life? Turtle crazy youngster Michael McCarty is fighting for his life after copying his cartoon heroes. Michael, 10, was stabbed in the eye as he and a pal acted out a Ninja Turtle sword fight. I just said sword. Anyway, this is just a dumb boy.
There was a surge of kids getting real turtles and terrapins to have, not as pets, but as toys, leading to many animals suffering.
that's
Many were
cruel.
dumped in lakes, but some of them survived and are still there now. Also, don't dump unwanted animals, you fucks!
Yeah.
There was also the fear that these animals could carry salmonella, which was a whole other panic the
probably
UK was
true.
having at the same time. The popularity of pizza partnered well with another panic, this time about obesity in children. And there was one really bizarre trend of kids climbing inside sewers.
Oh, they do. They live in the sewer. Yeah, y'all. I'm starting to see that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a horrible influence on dumb children. Damn. What they should have done is shown the kids It by Stephen King before they watched Ninja Turtles, and they would not be going in the sewer.
The council knows it has a battle on its hands trying to stop children climbing into sewer drains.
Children had actually taken wood into the sewers and what looked to us to be a den.
That hole behind him, it's just asking to be climbed into. What's in there? Are the Ninja Turtles in there? Is there pizza in there? Nunchucks? Throwing stars? What's in there?
An ordinary manhole cover like this one had to be cemented over after small children climbed down inside and built a den.
Hey, I was a kid in the 90s.
They built
I
a den?
Turtles.
I like turtles.
But I would never go into some shit-smelling hole in the ground just because I might meet Donatello.
Hell no.
But April O'Neil? Now that's upgraded to a maybe. It seems weird, but it cannot be understated how much of a huge craze the Turtles were. But was this really the show's fault? Didn't the parents buy all those terrapins? And to blame the show or the movies for kids injuring themselves and worse just for playing make-believe games is just bad faith.
No film that teaches violence powerfully should be given a PG rating.
At what age would you let your children see Ninja Turtles?
Oh, I wouldn't let them at any age.
What's that? That sounds like
Fun dad.
banning it for everyone again. Hooray! So the story behind the Turtles in the UK is a complicated one. To be clear, this isn't a case of the British being overly sensitive, and for all the loud outcrying voices, there were just as many pointing out that the concerns were baseless. Professor Stanley Cohen explains the stages of moral panics. 1. Something is defined as a threat. 2. Threat is simplified and amplified by mass media. 3. The public feels anxious. 4. Leaders create a solution to the threat. 5. The threat is no longer a threat. He adds, sometimes the object of the panic is quite novel, and at other times it's something which has been in existence for long enough but suddenly appears in the limelight. Sometimes the panic passes over and is forgotten except in folklore and collective memory, and at other times it has more serious and long-lasting repercussions and might produce such changes as those in legal and social policy, or even the way that society conceives itself. We can look back on all this turtle stuff as all being very silly, but there's always a moral panic trying to emotionally manipulate you. Be it a panic about The Simpsons, video games, or trans people who just want to exist. As I've shown, moral panics are heavily used for political point scoring by weaponizing outrage to win votes. They may seem goofy in hindsight, but this tactic is nothing new, is still going, and can cost lives.
New sovereign citizens attempt to enter a library to arrest a drag queen. Protesters harass parents as they walk in, accusing them of taking their kids to see a P word. So the Ninja Turtles were the drag queens of their day.
So, the next time some conservative complains about free speech,
Tell them to be shut the fuck up, or be shut the fuck up.
Tonight I dine on turtle soup.
Don't forget to check out
Oh,
Surfshark
this
and
is
a special
great.
shout out to this month's patrons.
Hey, Eddache, great video. Fascinating. At first, when I saw the title for this, I was like, what? Like, what's the big deal? Ninja Turtles, who cares? It's like a wacky kids thing. But he laid it out really well, and it kind of makes sense. I'm sad to say. I think I had a couple of the toys, but I think the appeal for me at the time was just that it was this crazy thing. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What is that? It's like this crazy, nonsensical thing. It's so crazy that it makes it compelling and fun, you know? I remember at the time, too, I was in English class, and I had a teacher named Miss Tuttle, and she was probably in her 40s, late 30s maybe. And in my classroom, I sat right next to the chalkboard. There was actually a chalkboard on every wall in that classroom, so they didn't use them all. And on my side of the room was a chalkboard. I like the chalkboard was right at my shoulder, and I would doodle on the chalkboard sometimes. And I did a drawing of my teacher, Miss Tuttle, as a Ninja Turtle, and I wrote next to it, Middle-aged Mutant Ninja Turtle. I thought it was really funny, but she saw it, and I thought she would think it was funny. She didn't tell me to erase it. She just seemed deflated. And later I realized that calling someone middle-aged is kind of like not cool. And I probably put my teacher in a headspace of like aging and feeling old. So that's one of those things that pops into my brain when I'm trying to fall asleep at night. Miss Tuttle, if you're out there, I apologize. I didn't mean it. I didn't know what I was saying. It's the name Tuttle. And I knew you weren't a teenager, but I don't know what that, like, adult Ninja Turtle, middle-aged Mutant Ninja Turtle is better. Anyway, it's crazy that this is a formula, too. People use the same formula now. Politicians. It makes me sad to think about how often this is used, actually. To get votes, to get power, to get money. It's sad, y'all. I'm on the fence, though. You know, video games and TV have to have some sort of effect on a kid, right? Even adults. But how do you counteract that? I mean, it's art. I guess it's up to the parents, but the parent can't hover over the kid all the time. This is a complicated issue. But it does consistently show that politicians are jerks. Anyway, this was interesting. Hey, thank you to my patrons right here. Thank you guys. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.